I'm Lisa Curcio, and I would love to welcome you here to Lisa's Stamp Studio. I am going to teach you how to make an expanding and collapsing box. Super easy. I know you're thinking, wow, yes, a 3D card that stands on its own and it fits into a medium A2 size envelope. Got lots of tips for you along the way as well. Now, in addition to the project I'm going to demonstrate, I have 2 other cards to share with you for added inspiration. And all 3 of those projects are going to be in the free project sheet. That'll be linked down in the video description below when tonight's premiere is all over. It's going to contain multiple pictures of each project, the cutting dimensions, the supplies, everything you need to know is going to be there, including an awesome template for you so you can recreate this amazing card at home. Now, if this is your first time at my channel, I would love to have you subscribe. Click the subscribe button and the bell icon and the word all so that YouTube will send you notifications when I'm here again on YouTube. We would love to have you join us. I want to make sure you know all about tonight's live chat. Myself and Gina Hawley are inside the live chat with you. Gina is my daughter. She's the sales and marketing director here at Lisa's Stamp Studio, but she is an avid stamper. And we love to get to know you, and we're here to answer your questions during the premiere. And again, we are live. YouTube does require that you log into your YouTube account using your Gmail address in order to chat or even leave a comment if you're watching the replay. Now, some exciting news I want to make sure you know all about. The online stamping retreat is literally just days away. You have just a few days left to register to join us for this full exclusive live online event. But don't worry, if you can't join us live for even the whole day or part of the day, everything is recorded for you and you have a lifetime access. There are going to be 6 live demonstrations, a bundle of 36 PDF tutorials, and did I mention 50 giveaways? The best part about our tutorial is it's thumbnail driven, which means on the front cover, you'll literally click on the picture of the card you want to know about. It'll scroll right to that page. Again, lifetime access. It does not matter what country that you live in. We partner with Kylie Bertucci, who is the #1 Stampin' Up! Demonstrator in Australia, and her incredibly talented husband, Bruno. Gina and I are going to be demonstrating together as well as separately. The same with Kylie and Bruno. You know that we pride ourselves on giving you easy steps to follow to create amazing fun fold cards. This online retreat is a fun fold exclusive event. So if you love ideas that are fresh and new using brand new product, we've got you covered. Head over to onlinestampingretreat.com for all the information. All right, we're ready? Let's get started. I did cut this piece ahead of time, but I want to make sure that I take a moment and show it to you. This is a typical 8.5 by 11. I cut off 1 inch from the 8.5 inch side. So this now is 8.5 by 10 inches. This is going to make the expanding and collapsing box card. We're going to save this for a closure. I'm going to be using my Stampin' Up! Paper trimmer, best one on the market. I've tried them all. The reason I love it best is not only because of the clear cutting guide, but it includes both scoring and cutting blades, and you can navigate them up and down out of the way. They can stay right on the track at the exact same time. Now, there's a ledge here at the top as well as one at the bottom. That's going to allow you to keep your cardstock nice and straight when you're cutting and scoring, because if you're like me, I can't do anything straight, so these are my saving grace. Lots of easy score lines. I'm going to go over them with you in the video. If you're making this card at home, my recommendation is to download the project sheet with the template and work side by side. Now, I'm going to tell you right now, I have a very crude one to share with you here on screen. So I'm going to be looking at this and walking you through it. And of course, the one inside your project sheet is real pretty. With the 8.5 inch side here at the top, we're going to do a score line at 1 1/2 inches. Again, you're going to see that I'm lining up the paper along the top. That light blade here is to score. We're going to move over now to 7 inches, and that's going to require the extendable arm, which I absolutely love. We're going to be able to accommodate scrapbookers. It goes just past 17 inches. This one is at 7 inches. So I'm going to scoot over and I'm going to line that up again along that ledge. And then we are going to use the light blade here once again, and we're going to score. We're going to turn it. So now this is the 10 inch side along the top. The first score line is going to be here at 2 inches. Again, making sure your cardstock is nice and straight. And then we'll score. And then at 3.5 inches, and we'll score. And then 6.5 inches. And then one more at 8" which is over here, and we are going to score. Now this is all we need the trimmer for. I want to lightly crease on these so that you can kind of see where they're at, because I know that's really difficult to see in the video. Again, print out that template at home so you can follow along with me. There are squares across the top. The center section here where my hand lays, we're going to actually rotate this, is we need to make 2 little tick marks here at the halfway point. Now, I like to use my trimmer for this. If you want to use a T-ruler, that's totally fine. But, I figure I got this. We might as well make it easy. So I want to mark the 5" mark. So I'm going to go ahead and turn this so it can come in here, and I'm going to line it again to the 5" mark. I am not going to use any blades. I'm literally going to close that clear track. And with my favorite craft pencil, I'm going to come right between that little track, and I'm going to make a tick mark at the top and at the bottom. I get lots of questions about this. It's linked for you on my website under Shop, My Favorite Things, and then Craft Room Favorites. I love that the lead is very, very soft. And of course, that eraser is a champ. You're going to be able to see that there's a small tick mark here, and there's a small one here at the bottom. All we're going to do now is connect the dots. And what I mean by that is we are literally going to connect that little tick mark in the center to the corners. Now, again, I know that's going to be difficult to see, so I'm going to kind of hold it up for you. I'm going to be using my little metal ruler, and I know it's got a terrible glare from the studio lights. So just for the sake of the video, I'm going to use it upside down. And I want to show you with my pencil first. So we want to come from the corner of this crease to that pencil mark. And what we're actually going to do is make a score line, but I'm going to make a pencil line so that you can see it. So we're going to make one here and another here. And again, I've made those kind of light, but I'm going to hold it up for you so that you can see that little tick line and then down to the corner. So now I have drawn on a V. My Take Your Pick tool is a beloved little element here in my studio because it has interchangeable tips. So I'm going to take that one out. I'm going to bring in the dual-sided stylus tool, and they just lock right inside. It has a putty tip, which is fantastic for picking up those small pieces of paper or sequins. And like I showed you, the dial out extension. I'm going to use my ruler for this, and I've drawn the line so that you can see. But what I'm going to do is I'm literally going to score over those lines. So obviously you don't have to draw the pencil lines if you don't want to. I always like to make sure that my stylus tool is going to end up right where I want it. So I'm just going to go over that and create a crease. And we're going to do the exact same thing now on this side. So make sure that my stylus tool is going to end up where I want it. And I'm just going to go over that line. Now we've got one here. Do you see that tick mark here? That was the one we made. Identical. We're just going to go to the corner. Now the corner is here, which might be difficult for you to see on camera, but there it is. So we're going from the tick line once again to the corner. I'm making sure that my stylus tool is going to end up exactly where I want it before I score. And we're going to do the exact same thing now on this side, lining up your corner to your tick mark. So we've got our triangle here with our tick mark at the top and the bottom. Now what I want you to do is I want you to rotate it so that those little diamond points here are to the side. Now I'm going to use my pencil to help you with this because we're going to do a little bit of snipping and it's not hard. There's a quadrant here at the bottom. We're going to cut this away and we're going to cut this away. We're going to do the exact same thing now when I rotated it on the other side. So those are basically the bottom 4 corners. We are going to need to provide a slit because remember we're turning this into a box. So this line right here is going to be cut on both sides. And I'm just going to trace it to make it easier for you to follow along with me from home. So we're going to cut from here to here. So a solid line is a cut. And then of course we're going to cut away the quadrants. So let's do this together. Here's a great tip for you. As much as I love my Stampin' Up! Paper snips, I love a long tipped pair of scissors for this, especially because I have terrible basal joint arthritis. So what we're going to do is we know we're going to cut this one away, but we also know we're going to slit this. So why not just do the whole thing at once, right? I'm coming right on that score line with my scissors, and I'm going to cut all the way up to the top. But what I'm going to do is cut away this bottom box. So I'm just looking to cut right on that score line. That's going to give us this. We're going to move over now to this side. Again, we're going to cut all the way up to the top just to save a step. And then we're going to cut away this bottom box here. And I'm cutting right on the score line. Now, while that doesn't seem like it's easy for you to see the score lines on camera, I promise you when you're doing this at home, it's simple. I'm turning it, and we're going to do the exact same thing now on this side. So we're cutting from all the way to the bottom, up, And then we're going to cut away the X area, which is that bottom quadrant right here on the score line. We're going to do the exact same thing on this side. Since this is going to fold up to make a box in just a minute, I find the self-forgiving thing to do is to miter these corners. And because of how I chose to assemble this box, I'm going to ask you to miter both sides of each of these loose tabs. There's no science to this. Take your scissors, and all you're going to do is you're going to narrow out this little tab. So I'm just going to cut a little bit away. You don't measure, you don't do anything, just cut a little tab. So we're going to do the same thing now on this side. And of course, you're going right up to that corner. And then we're going to do the exact same thing here on this side. So just a little bit, because you just want a little bit of an angle there. It's going to make it fold a lot easier. We're going to turn this around, and we're going to do that exact same thing on this side. Now, you're going to notice that my tabs on both sides are not equal. Doesn't matter. That's it. The rest is just folding and adhering. But you might also be thinking, how are we going to decorate a box that expands and collapses and make it into a card? You're going to need your bone folder. You're also going to want to erase all those marks. Now you can use the eraser here on your pencil, which is identical to the one I'm using here. This is linked for you under my favorite things as well. This very first score line here towards the center, we're going to do what's called a valley fold, which means it's going to come in. This is now a great time to look to see if your edges are going to be even, and then go over it with your bone folder. This score line that's next is going to be a mountain fold. It's going to come back on top of itself and then reinforce it with your bone folder. We're going to pivot this, and we're going to do the same thing on this side. So valley fold to the inside, checking, and then a mountain fold back on top of itself, and then go over it with your bone folder. So you're now going to have this. You see it starting to come together? Now let's talk about these two areas here. You're going to fold down, and I'm just going to turn it slightly to go over it with my bone folder. And this one is going to come up on the bottom and go over it with your bone folder. These are also very simple. Let's just fold those tabs in just so that we can break down that score line just a little bit. And we're going to do the same thing here at the bottom. Whenever you're doing a 3D project or a fun fold, your bone folder is really going to be your best friend. The next step is to take the top tab and fold it down. You're going to be able to faintly see that crease here where I've scored. So all you're going to do is you're going to bend on that, and then you're going to go over it with your bone folder. Here's the same one here on this side. These are going to make a point. Now this is how you can tell whether or not you've scored pretty good. When you're done, you're going to have this. We're going to do the same thing here at the bottom. This one is going to come up, and then this is going to come down, and then you're going to go over it with your bone folder. And we're going to do the exact same thing now on this score line. Again, you're going to be able to tell how good you've scored. None of us are perfect, so be a little bit self-forgiving, especially if it's your first time putting the card together. You have to decorate it next. Otherwise, it's going to be really difficult to do once it's assembled as a box, even though this will collapse and expand. So let's go ahead and let's work on that now. I've got a ton of tips for you about assembly as well. For these two outside areas here, I chose to put designer series paper. This gorgeous paper is from Unbound Beauty, and it's double-sided. With all the Stampin' Up! Designer series papers, you're going to get one side that's a bit more generic, so you can use it all year round with all kinds of things. And the other one is obviously themed for the package of paper it's designed for. As much as I love this, I wanted a little bit more texture to it. So let me show you what I did. I'm going to bring in some scrap grid paper here, and I'm going to use the coordinating ink pad, which is Petunia Pop. This is a brand new in color. Absolutely love this color. It's probably my new favorite. I'm grabbing a stamp image here. I'll be using the Country Flowers bundle, which is the stamp set and the coordinating dies. Absolutely love this. Easy to color. You see how big and bold those images are. But it also has a sister stamp set or bundle, it's your choice, called Country Birdhouse. So you're going to see that the artwork is the same. So it was the same designer and artist that designed both of these sets. And I love it because you can mix and match. This does have dies that can be purchased as a bundle. And remember, when you buy as a bundle, you'll save 10%. I pulled out that small flower here, and that's from the Country Birdhouse. I'm going to ink that up, and I'm going to stamp off. I don't want that ink to be too dark. And then I'm going to stamp, and I'm going to rotate. And guess what I'm doing? I'm creating my own designer series paper pattern here. How hard you press And what level of ink coverage you want is entirely up to you. Test it on a scrap piece of designer series paper first so that you can get a really subtle look. I did do the other one ahead of time, which I have here. So let's bring back in the card base itself and let's adhere these. Now, I have tried using adhesive, and I'm going to tell you right now it wasn't forgiving enough. So I'm going to recommend liquid glue. I put the multi-purpose liquid glue inside my precision glue press. I can't live without this because, as I told you, I have very bad arthritic hands. You can see how swollen they are. So squeezing is very hard for me, and I was quite skeptical about this tool when I got it, but it is a game changer. And if you've watched my videos for any length of time, you know I was never a glue girl. I hated squeezing the bottle. This has changed everything. That precision tip is wonderful. You're going to get 2 glue bottles when you buy the press. One of them is self-contained with glue. The other one is empty. And inside this, I put about almost 3 bottles of the multi-purpose liquid glue that is sold in my online store. And I want you to see how simple this is to use. I like to get it started here on my silicone craft sheet just to make sure it's flowing very well. I want you to watch my fingers as I'm dispensing this. Do you see how tiny those dots can be and how little I'm squeezing? I want you to make a thin line of glue around the outside edges. The multi-purpose liquid glue is my favorite because it's strong and it dries quickly. The problem is that the tip on the actual bottle is really too big to give yourself a nice thin layer of glue. I'm looking here just to make sure I have an even border all the way around, just doing the very best that I can. Once you're happy with it, go ahead and press that in place. We're going to do the exact same thing now on the other side. Now you're going to find the precision glue press linked for you on my website under Shop, My Favorite Things, and then Craft Room Favorites. Absolutely love it. Now I'm going to talk to you too about that little carrier that I'm putting it in. It has a pink stopper at the bottom, which is one of the reasons I absolutely love it. Let me show it to you. It has a lid, both decorative, that has a needle tip in it, so that's going to keep it from clogging when you're sealing it. But you see that little pink plunger? That actually brings the needle tip of the precision glue press to the stopper, which prevents this from clogging. You can leave it out all day and you're good to go. When you're done crafting at the end of the night, seal it up. It works fantastic. Now that we have those adhered, there's an inside area here if you choose to decorate it. I did some mixing and matching. This designer series paper is from the package called Bright and Beautiful. Love it because there's a huge myriad of colors in there that work with lots of other designer series papers. And I'm going to place these here. Now you can go ahead and stamp that background once again if you wanted to, but I decided to keep that area kind of simple, mainly because once our card is all put together, we're really not going to be able to see it. So once again, we're going to add our glue. We're looking to try to provide that equal border all the way around. And now we're going to go ahead and do the other side as well. This is going to be the inside of the card. There is going to be no way that you can sign it once it's all put together because it's going to be a box. So I'm going to recommend that whatever you're going to put here, and if you choose to sign it, you do that before you assemble it. I want to show you what I did for this area. I'm bringing in my mini Misty, and I know you've got some glare here from the studio light, so I'll apologize for that up front. I took off a little acetate cover to this area here because these are the sticky sheets. Now, you might be wondering, well, why are you using that? Well, good reason. Because the piece of paper that's measured for the inside area of that card I just showed you is quite small. Normally, I would use this in the corner, but it's such a tight fit with the greeting that I needed to put it in the center. And this is where these sticky mats are amazing. You're going to get 3 of these in a package. They come both for the mini and for the full-size Misty. You can choose what you want to purchase. I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to use those grids just to make my life easy. And once I'm happy with it, it's literally going to stick. I decided to pull this off to show you how it works. You're going to line this up exactly where you're going to want it on the paper. Once you're happy, you're going to go ahead and you're going to press and you're going to lift. It does come with a magnet, and if you feel more secure on putting it on the sticky sheet, you can. But this is what I love about this product, is because I know my paper is not going to move. Better yet, if you're like me and you don't always get a really great impression the first time, we can go over this multiple times to make sure that it's going to look good. Now, this is a tool I recently found, and it's linked for you too under Shop My Favorite Things. It's under my Craft Room Favorites. Those arthritic hands are always a problem. Do you see how light that is? It's supposed to be look shaded in some areas versus others, but it's still not a nice deep impression. So I'm going to go ahead and ink it again. And because it's perfectly positioned, we don't ever have to worry about losing that exact same spot for your greeting. Now, I've just used my microfiber cloth to clean that off. And now if you're wondering how you're going to get this off of here without destroying your cardstock, I've got a great tip for you. Hold it upside down and you're literally going to peel the sticky mat off of the cardstock versus peeling the cardstock. Now I've got one here that I finished ahead of time, and you're going to see that I stamped those same flowers that we stamped off on the designer series paper here, and I colored them in. But let's talk about those images and let's do a little bit of stamping together. I'm going to be using the black Memento ink pad. It's my go-to ink pad for this. And I'm going to be working on something for the front of my card. So I'm going to stamp that teapot image and I'm going to put that here. I'm going to move over to the floral image that is part of that same stamp set I just showed you. And we're going to stamp that here. I already have these colored and die cut for you, but I get a lot of questions about shading. All the Stampin' Blends are alcohol markers. They come in a duo, which means you're going to get a light and a dark shade for each color. You're going to notice that the tips are delineated here by the line by the cap. So you can choose the tip that best suits your project. I prefer to use the light color first because I'm way heavy-handed, but there's no right or wrong way. I'm going to use my brush tip for this, and I'm going to start by coloring in the teapot. Now this is just like you would color any other image, but you're going to notice that I'm stroking with it. Remember that alcohol-based markers have an alcohol base to them, so it's going to spread. So you want to be cognizant of that when you get too close to the outside edges. I love to turn my paper versus turning my hand because I find that that's a lot easier and user-friendly. Don't worry about areas that you might miss that are a little bit white, just leave them there. Now the secret is to allow that alcohol base of the marker to evaporate, because if you work too quickly, you're going to have all the alcohol bleeding together and it's going to look more distorted than shaded, and that's not what we want. Now that this has had a few seconds for that alcohol base to evaporate, I'm going to come in with the dark. So I'm going to work here on the left-hand side, and I prefer to start at the bottom, and I'm going to add a little dark and a little dark here. Those artist lines are great cheat marks, so keep that in mind. I'm going to put a little bit underneath it here and here. Now what I'm going to do now is I'm going to start by stretching my marker and going shallower and shallower as I work my way up. Again, if you have some skip lines, it's totally okay. Turn your cardstock because nobody wants contortionist coloring. So we're going to work longer and then we're going to come in shorter. And I'm not perfect either. So if it's not perfectly aligned, don't worry about it. Now for the handle, I kind of picture that the light is coming this way. So I'm going to add some of my dark down inside of this area here. Again, alcohol-based markers have a tendency to expand. So make sure you keep that in mind when you're coloring. Down here, I decided that the spout was probably going to be dark because it's going to be in the background. And then here, another cheat mark, right? So we're going to use that to our advantage, and we're just going to stretch that out just a little bit. Now, once again, that's going to need some time to process. You want that alcohol to evaporate. So I'm going to come back now to the light, and this is where the magic happens. Doesn't matter if you start at the top or bottom, but you're literally pulling the dark into the light. I'm going to turn it. I'm going to do this side as well. Now, here's the great thing about alcohol markers. You can go over them numerous times to create the shading that you're looking for. As this starts to evaporate, you're going to notice that it's going to become more of its true tone, and it's going to look more shaded than it does actually colored. Now, as I mentioned, I did these ahead of time for you, and I have them here. Now, let's talk about how we're going to put all of this together. You'll recall the card base itself. I decided to put this big focal point here in the center. I am not going to use this area to sign. I'm just going to actually make this a display area. And you'll see I did that on all of my cards. Once again, we're going to come back to that glue press. We're going to add a thin layer of glue around the outside edges. You want to make sure that this is adhered all the way around because this is a 3D project. And even though it will fit in an envelope, you want to make sure that none of those edges are going to lift during mailing or when you crease it. We're ready to put this box together. I have seen where people have put the tabs to the inside and then added the designer series paper. I'm going to be honest with you. I found that super challenging when I got to the other side and it made a box. and I had a very difficult time getting my paper over the top fairly even. I'm going to tell you, try it, but works best for me is to put it on the outside. This tab here, your adhesive is going to go on the front, so this can go to the back side. This is one reason why we mitered both sides of this. So I'm going to bring in my silicone craft sheet for this. And I'm switching over to my Stamp and Seal Plus. This is a very strong adhesive runner. I'm going to add adhesive generously to that tab. I'm going to flip this over so you can see it, tucking that corner, and then we're adhering it. Do you see why we mitered this? Because when we're done, we're going to hide this. So we're going to come over now to this tab as well. I'm laying it flat on the silicone craft sheet. And one of the reasons I love the silicone craft sheet is because adhesive, liquid glue, and hot glue will not stick to it, which means it's going to be your best friend on your work surface. Now we're going to go over and we're going to work on the other side as well. And because of the creases, that's going to allow you to make this nice and flat. So I'm going to come back over this and add my adhesive. Same thing on this side. You're going to bring that flap up and we're working underneath here in the corner. And then here is our last flap with the Stamp and Seal Plus. And then this is going to go here. Make sure you're working inside your corner. This, believe it or not, is the card, and you're thinking there's no way this is going to fit in an envelope, and I'm here to tell you it is. Watch. These are going to go down. So all you have to do is start by collapsing it, and it's going to fold flat. I would not take a bone folder over this. I would just take my palm of my hand or the heel of my hand and just crease it, because remember, everything was scored and gone over with the bone folder. But this is what's super cool about it, because it will be freestanding and it creates an amazing expanding and collapsing box, like a shadow box. Now you might be thinking, well, if we're not writing and signing here, where are we writing and signing? Well, of course, right here on the back. So I cut another piece of basic white cardstock, and I did do this ahead of time. Have another flower to coordinate, and that greeting that you see here at the top comes from Heartfelt Hexagons. It's probably one of my most used greeting stamp sets, because it also fits in a punch. I have another card that uses this I think you're going to really enjoy. Once again, we're going to flip that over. We're going to add that precision glue all the way around the outside edges here. This is going to fold flat. So slightly turn it to make it easy for your hand. Do the very best you can to try to get an equal border all the way around. And then when you're happy with it, go ahead and press that in place. Now that we have this together, we have this area here. It's not real pretty. So we can cover this with designer series paper. The great news is it's the exact same dimension as the piece we put on the inside. Okay, now that our pretties are all in place, we need to work on a closure. Do you remember this 1-inch piece that we cut off in the very beginning? This is going to be the mechanism for the closure. I'm going to center this in the middle of my card with the raw ends facing up. Please keep in mind that your card is going to expand a little bit, and you don't want to make the belly band so tight that they can't get it off the card. They would have to destroy it. So I'm going to take one end and I'm going to bend it towards the center. I'm leaving a little bit of space there, about 1/8 of an inch. Now you might be thinking, why not just score it on specific scoring lines? You know what? That never worked for me, because each card is constructed a little bit differently. None of us cuts and scores perfectly. Now that this is off, you can take your precision glue press and you can connect that little tiny area, or not. It's up to you. I like to connect it. So we're going to put a little tiny bit of glue there. If you have too much, here's another tip for you. Tap it off on your silicone craft sheet. Remember that the multi-purpose liquid glue is very, very strong, and it dries very, very quickly. Remember these pieces? Let's put these pieces together because they're going to go on our belly band. Decide which way you want this to go, and then determine where your liquid glue is going to need to be placed. And then go ahead and adhere those together. I could have put this directly on here, but I decided I also wanted a greeting on the front. So I pulled out the Nested Essentials dies. Love these because you get various shapes and you get the layering sizes. I die cut one here using bubble bath cardstock. I'm going to eventually add my teapot here, but I want to put a greeting from that stamp set. And here it is. It actually says sending love, but if you look closely, it's one long piece, which is not going to work. I'm using the black Memento ink pad once again. Now with photopolymer, the advantage that you have is that it's clear, so you can see where you're going. Watch me first. I'm going to ink up just the word sending. I'm entirely avoiding the word love. You can keep this in place if you want, or you can slide it over to the side. Determine where you want it and then stamp. I've just cleaned the stamp off camera, and we're going to do the exact same thing now with the word love, but watch. You're going to need to have a little bit of space, because do you see what's going to happen is you're going to have that little teapot end here that's going to probably be in the way. So I'm going to ink up the word love. Again, photopolymer makes it nice and easy, and you can see where you're going. I'm going to stamp this down here. I'm going to flip the teapot over, and I'm grabbing my dimensionals. I'm going to change out the tool now on my Take Your Pick tool. That was the stylus tool that we used. This little spatula is great for getting up underneath your mistakes, but I love that paper piercing tool attachment. Not only does it help with my arthritic hands, but it is fantastic for lifting up the dimensionals and placing them on the back of your projects, and also for removing the backing. What I don't want is I don't want a dimensional that's going to fall beyond this little label. So I'm going to go ahead and just start with these. Now I'm afraid this was going to sag, so I'm going to bring in my mini dimensionals here. These are smaller, already pre-cut pieces. That's going to make my life super easy. Watch this. We're going to brace the paper, holding it down, and I'm piercing those dimensionals to pull off that paper backing. That's going to wrangle them all up, and it's going to remove them really quick. Now what we're doing is we're just going to determine where this is going to go, and we're going to adhere that in place. Now down here at the bottom, if you don't like the way this kind of looks, because it looks like it's floating, let me give you a quick tip. I'm going to take the Bubble Bath Stampin' Blends marker. I'm going to add a little bit of color there with the light shade. I'm going to let it process for a second, because remember, it needs to evaporate. We're then going to come in with the darker shade. I'm just going to very carefully lift that. I'm going to go over it once again. So there's a little bit of blending there. That's going to kind of ground that image. Remember the belly band? Let's go ahead and let's put this on the card. So you're going to squeeze your card closed, and you're going to slip the belly band either over the top or from the bottom and put it in place. Your raw ends are here. If you chose not to glue them, no problem. What you're going to do now is you're going to take your dimensionals. You're going to place one in the center if you've glued it. If you haven't glued it, one on each side. But remember, you want to be cognizant of the width of the image that you're going to put there, so you don't make these too far apart. We're going to remove those paper backings once again, and then this is going to be front and center for the card. Now for me, I just couldn't resist, because I thought a little bling is always a great thing. These iridescent adhesive backed discs are absolutely beautiful, and because of their iridescent look, I find that they work so beautifully with so many colors in the Stampin' Up! Palette. So I'm just picking them up. They've got glue dots on the back already. You're going to want to give those a good push, because you want to make sure they're good and stuck for when they remove the belly band. So this is going to come off the top. It's going to pop open. It's going to be perfect for display. And best of all, you've got a nice flat area here on the back to right and side. Now this is the first card. Let me show you the others I created for you. The next card I'm going to share with you, believe it or not, only uses greeting stamp sets. Simply said, in kindest expressions, can't go wrong with good greeting sets. And this is the card that I created. I used that absolutely stunning Mediterranean Blooms Designer Series paper. This I just fussy cut with my scissors from the Designer Series paper. Was quick and easy. I left some white around the border, did not stress about it. Stamped that greeting on a little sliver of paper. Die cut some pieces and put it together. White card base, not typically something we use, but watch. This is going to slide off. And then when we open it, ooh, this one has a double surprise. This is perfect for a gift card holder. Now, if you don't want to decorate the inside like I did on this one, again, Designer Series paper, you can go ahead and add a glue dot to this and just tack it down to the center. It's going to be easy to remove and great for the receiver. Best part is we still have plenty of room on the back, and of course plenty of room to flatten it out and to write or sign. So this one can be doubled as a gift card holder and of course as a greeting card. So this is your second card. The third one uses the stamp set called Cake Fancy. Look at those images. This is a distinctive stamp, which means it's going to stamp looking more realistic than it does outline stamped images. Really fun to use. I paired it with that heartfelt hexagon. Remember I shared this with you when I used it for the back side of that first card. It has a coordinating heartfelt hexagon punch you can purchase separately, which will punch out the images that are used here. And that's exactly what I did for the front of this card. I didn't have designer series paper that coordinated perfectly with this, so I thought, you know what, I'm going to make my own. I cut white panels of cardstock and I just stamped on the flowers from the Cake Fancy stamp set. There's that heartfelt hexagon. We're going to slide this off once again. And then here comes our easy expanding and collapsing box card. This one has a birthday cake front and center using those really pretty trendy peach colors. And on the back side, we've got a little bit extra here in decorating and plenty of room to sign. Again, this expands. I added some sequins to those little flowers and I did add some dimensionals. And I'll be honest with you, I don't think it's really going to be much of a difference as far as postage is concerned. This will fit in a standard A2 size envelope, but it's going to be probably a little bit thicker than normal. As always, I love to know your favorites. Pop down right now in the comments and let me know. Who are you going to make your expanding and collapsing box card for? I would love to know. Stampin' Up! Is offering an amazing starter kit special right now. I would love to have you part of my stamping team. You can get all the information over on my website. Click the join button. And if you haven't heard about Stamp Studio memberships, I want to make sure you know all about them. Doesn't matter what country you live in, and guess what? If you're a Stampin' Up! Demonstrator, I have you covered as well. Every Monday at 9 a.m. Eastern Time, you can sign up for memberships and you'll get an email with an exclusive project that comes right to your inbox. I designed these cards specifically for the memberships. You will see them nowhere else. There are 2 levels to choose from. $5 a month gets you that tutorial every single Monday morning. Level 2 includes all of that plus a fun fold, a discount in my PDF tutorial library, and of course we do random prize patrol. We would love to have you join us. All the information is on my website under memberships. While you're on my website, scroll to the bottom. You'll see a form there for you to fill out to join my free weekly e-newsletter, and you'll want to be part of that. Not only do I give you more inspiration, but I always keep you in the know on what's happening here at the studio and with Stampin' Up! So that you don't miss any sales and promotions. I would love for you to check out my vast PDF tutorial library because guess what? Cake Fancy has a tutorial there with 4 additional card samples if you like the stamp set and the project I shared with you tonight. Thank you so much for joining me. Gina, thanks for all your help here in the live chat tonight. We look forward to having you next time, everyone. Have a great evening. Bye-bye.